Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 4th of July. Today we have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. And today we are going to start with Seversk, the main town in Donbas Corporation. This town is located on the west from Lysychansk agglomeration. This Lysychansk agglomeration. This town is located on the east from Slaviansk-Kramatorsk, the heart of Donbas occupation, and this town is located on the north from Bakhmut. I must say that I think that this is the K-town in this area, and who controls Seversk control the entire valley between Kramatorsk and Seversk and Bakhmut, this valley. And there are a lot of talks, a lot of rumors, a lot of opinions where the Russians are planning to attack first, Seversk or Bakhmut. I think that the Russians are planning to attack Seversk. We're gonna see some offensive operations towards Bakhmut, but it's not going to be like a straight attack towards Bakhmut. I think that the Russians will try to encircle Bakhmut from the south, trying to move towards Donetsk, in New York agglomeration, we can say, but I'm not sure that the Russians are planning to attack Bakhmut in front. And if we're talking about Seversk, I did a small poll on my channel, and the question was, do you think that the Russians will be able to take Seversk in the next 2-3 days? We saw how the Russians developed their offensive operation during the past few days, so of course it's a reasonable question to understand if the Russians are able to take Seversk so fast. And 77% of our members told us that yes, they believe, and just 23% said that no, the Russians are not able to take Seversk in 2-3 days. So we can say that 77% of our members believes that the Russians are going to take Seversk like by Thursday, or at least to start or to take some part of Seversk, like suburbs and so on, and to have some battle for Seversk. And we understand if the Russians are able, let's say, take some suburbs from this area, we understand that in a few days entire Seversk is going to fall. If we are talking about the Ukrainians and their authority, today we got some report from Russian intelligence, that Zaluzhny asked Zelensky to leave Seversk, to leave this town and to move all forces from Seversk towards Slaviansk, Kramatorsk or Bakhmut. No, he requested not to defend this area and not to hold for this area because it's very dangerous, because the forces that located in Seversk might be encircled. I did this poll this morning trying to understand the opinions of members if the Russians are able to take Seversk. It was at noontime, and the result, we got the same result at noontime. Like the majority of our members think that the Russians are able to do this and they are going to do this. But at noon, we got some report from the Russian Federation where the Minister of Defense of Russian Federation, Shoigu, reported to Putin about the operation in Lysychansk. He told like in small details about the entire operation, about the things that happened there. He told that during this operation, the Ukrainian losses was around 6,000 soldiers. And more than 2,000 is like the dead one, the killed soldiers, and there is no way to return these people back. He told that everything with this operation was successful and so on. And during this meeting, I'm sure that many of you saw this report or read some notes about this report, and everybody heard or read that Putin told Shoigu that the soldiers who participated in this operation, in Lysychansk operation, should have some rest. They should regroup, they should fulfill, they should do every necessary procedure to become 100% ready for the further offensive operation. And we can say, if we like translate and we understand the word that Putin said exactly as he said, we can think that the Russians are planning to take some operational pause near Seversk, so that they're not planning to continue their offensive operation towards Seversk, that they decided to take some pause, to make some rest, to regroup, to fulfill, and so on. But to tell the truth, there was another important update. In his word note, he told that just the forces that took part in this operation should rest, but all other forces, all other armies should continue their operation according to the plan. If you ask my opinion, if you ask me, what do I think about Putin's words? Of course, I have like two options in this case. First one is to believe exactly as he told us. Like the forces should stop, should regroup, should take a rest, should relax, and so on. It was like the most obvious position, like as we understand, as we hear. But there is, of course, another position, another option, how you can understand his words. And for better understanding of his words, of another option, what he was trying to tell us, we can use our math and the length of the front line one more time. Let's try to calculate the current front line near Siversk, like at the 1st of July. So let's calculate the length of the front line from Yampol, let's say towards Yakovlivka, this back. So what is the length of this front line? I will try to calculate as close to the border, so for better understanding, and we see that the current front line is around 54 kilometers, well, 55 kilometers. Let's calculate the front line from the same points from Yampol towards Yakovlivka that was before the Russians succeed to establish control all over Lysychansk agglomeration. So it will be like the same front line, but of course it will be much bigger. Now we are trying to move around Rubizhnoye, Severdonetsk, Borivskoye. We remember about Toshkovka. We remember that Gorsko-Zolotoye was under the Ukrainians. We remember that some part of we can lead the front line around Kamyshevacha, not on the south from Vrubovka, near Nirkovo, and now we get the same point. And as you can see, the front line was 123 kilometers. So we can say that the front line, the length of front line, reduced even more than in 2 times. And if we are talking about the front line, the length, if we are talking about the length in 123 kilometers, and if we are talking about the standards, like let's say 5 kilometers per 1 BTG, so in this case we can say that the Russians needed just for this operation around 25 BTGs. It's like according to standards. And now the front line, the same place as we discussed, is just 55 kilometers. And that means that if we're talking about the standard of 5 kilometers per 1 BTG, it's around 11 BTGs. So the Russians, to complete successfully the offensive operation towards Siversk, they need just around, let's say, 11 BTGs. So around 10,000 soldiers just to handle with this back. And they used to need around, as we discussed one more time, around 25. So I think, my opinion, that Putin spoke not about resting or regrouping or freezing this front line. I think that he was talking about these extra 15 BTGs, 13/15 BTGs that there is no longer needed on this front line. We understand that it's like it's waste of BTGs to have here the same quantity as the Russians have when they had much bigger front line. And as we discussed right now, the Russians can reduce the number of BTGs in this area from 25 till 11. So those 14 BTGs can take a rest, can regroup, can fulfill, and as we discussed, the Russians can send these 14 BTGs to any other front line. Of course, they're gonna have some rest. They're gonna have the same rest as the forces after Mariupol operations, around 1 or 2 weeks. The forces from those extra forces, first I think that they will move towards Lugansk. It's like capital of Lugansk People's Republic, it's a big town with nice places where these soldiers can take a rest, relax, and so on. And after that, these forces will be moved to another front line. And I think that those forces will be sent or to Toretsk. Anyway, they're going to be sent somewhere toward New York. So my projection, as we discussed in the global projection of global operation, The Russians need to encircle and try to encircle Bakhmut and Konstantinovka, this area from the south, trying to establish control over New York, Avdiivka, Toretsk, over these Ugledarsk power plants. They need this area, so like in 2 weeks we're gonna see the active offensive operation near Toretsk. This is some kind of my projection. Maybe they will send these forces to Izium, but Izium is very close to front line and Izium is often shelled. Maybe to Svatova or Kupiansk, somewhere in the place where it's pretty calm, pretty safe, and after that those forces may be sent towards Kharkiv, or else they can send them anywhere. But the thing is, and the question is that I do believe that the Russians are not planning to stop any offensive operations towards Seversk. They will continue, and there is a very high chance that maybe the Russians are planning to establish at least control over some some suburbs, some edge of Seversk in the next few days. Furthermore, if we're talking about to be more precise about the Seversk operation, of course, we need to understand the movements, the Russian movements. And right before I started recording this video, I got updates that the Russians has already sent some groups, some forces towards Seversk. They didn't mention exactly their direction, which town, which direction they're planning to move, but if we will discuss and analyze the situation, of course, the Russians will try to use a lot of ways of attack. And the most important one, the most important direction in the battle for Seversk is, of course, to establish control over Sporne, Ivano-Darivka, and Vyimka. So this line is the most important because of that fact that using this line, the Russians will be able to establish fire control over these roads, the railroad and the regular road. And as you can see, the Seversk still has possibility to be supplied and supported from Bakhmut using the railroad. There's not just the military forces who use this railroad, also civilians. So that's why it's like the most obvious and necessary step for the Russians if they want to encircle Seversk or to break this area. They need to cut the supply from Bakhmut. They need to cut these two towns and to make them separate, or to force them to use much more bigger and longer support shoulder between these towns. Like, for example, from Seversk towards Kaleniki, Rai-Alexandrovka, and then after Rai-Alexandrovka they will be able to reach the MO3 road, and after that, using this road, they will be able to reach Bakhmut, Krasnaya Gora, and Solidar. So this is the main road, and as you can see, the Russians are doing their some offensive operation during these days. The Russians, if you take a look at the Russian sources map, they destroyed some warehouses in Ivano-Darivka. The Russians, with their missile attack, destroyed some command centers who were controlling and supporting the Ukrainian forces in this area. Furthermore, the Russians are shelling Seversk heavily and so on. As you can see, there is also a mark that some forces are retreating from Grigorievka and Serebryanka. So this is the first road. The main idea to cut this area. Of course, another road will be from Bilogorovka towards Grigorievka, towards Serebryanka, and from Serebryanka, the Russians will try to attack Seversk from the north. I think that this way is the easiest way for many reasons, and one of them is that these towns are very close to the Russian territory, and there was some report that the Russians are able to shell, to mine, to mortar these towns heavily. So I don't think that the Russians are going to have problems by taking these towns. Furthermore, I admit myself that there is an update that the Ukrainians are leaving Grigorievka. So I understand that this is another road. Of course, the most difficult way, the most tough way is to attack from Verkhnykamenko or Refinery towards Verkhnykamenskaya. We're also gonna see this way, like in front, like face to face, and so on. There are already heavy clashes, and this area is the easiest position for the Ukrainians to protect. And as we discussed in the previous video, the Russians will try to use, and some sources reported and confirmed that the Russians will try to cross to Seversky Donetsk and to attack, establish control all over 3 towns: Dronievka, Platonovka, and Zakitna. Furthermore, I'm sure that the Russians won't have any problems with this town as well. And the main idea, of course, to establish some bridgehead on this side of the river. And the main idea why is this operation so important and why this operation is so necessary for the Russians, it's the same situation as we saw in Privilye, because we know that the Lysychansk agglomeration battle, the only place where the Ukrainians could use to evacuate is the area between Privilye, Malorezantsevo, Novodruzhsk, Blagorovka. This small square, this triangle, this area. So that's why as soon as the Russians crossed Privilye and tried to establish fire control over this area, we saw that Lysychansk agglomeration fell in a few days, maybe if not in a few hours. So the same thing here. If we are talking about the Seversk, Seversk has 3 roads, big roads, 4 roads that they can use for evacuation, because I don't think that we're gonna speak about supply support of this area, we're gonna speak just about evacuation. The first road leads from Seversk towards Bakhmut, through Solidar and through all these towns. Another one moves to Svyatopokrovsk, and after that this road moves towards Nikolaevka, we can say like towards Lysychansk-Slaviansk agglomeration, this road, towards the road MO3. And the last one is moved through Platonovka, Zakitne, Krivoluka, Nikolaevka, and again we can find ourselves in Slaviansk. And by attacking, if the Russians attacks, for example, Vyimka, Ivanodarivka, this one, they will be able to cut at least one road that connects Seversk with Bakhmut. If the Russians are able to cross the river, they will be able to cut physically the third road that connects Seversk and Slaviansk agglomeration. And they're going to be just one road from Seversk to the big land, this one. And in this case, the most important town, if we're talking about the back of Seversk, is of course Kaleniki. This town is the key town in this, we can call Seversk offensive operation. The most important town in this situation is Kaleniki and Svyatopokrovsk, these 2 towns. These are the key towns, and who control these towns control the situation in Seversk. And furthermore, this is the reason why the Russians need to cross and need to establish the bridgehead on this side of the river, because from Zakitne it's not very far to establish at least fire control over Kaleniki. 7 kilometers, that's not much. The Russians have the artillery, even they can use their flamethrower systems that are they can reach. They will have to move a little bit closer, of course, but this enough distance to cover this area and to cut Seversk group from evacuation. So I think that this is the further plan of the battle for Seversk. And as you can see, to be successful and to take Seversk in 2-3 days, as it was written in my poll, the Russians just need to do 2 things. They need to cross the river and establish the real bridgehead over Zakitne. With help of that, they will be able to establish control over Kaleniki. And another thing they need to do is to reach Vyimka. For these purposes, they need to cross Sporne, and they are already there. And for the next few days, they need to take Ivanodarivka and to get to Vyimka. Vyimka is not a very big town. There are a few villages. I'm not sure that the Ukrainians are going and have possibility to hold this area for a very long time. I'm sure that as soon as they find out that the Russians brought their flamethrower systems, they will just drop their weapon and run away from this battlefield. Because for now, I see that the Ukrainians don't have any anti-flamethrower systems in their pocket. So let's call it like this. So this is about the battle for Seversk. Another important update about the further campaign, the further situation in Russian-Ukrainian special operation. Let's call it like this. If you remember, a few days ago, maybe like 3 weeks ago, I think, I told you that somewhere in the end of June and by the beginning of July, the Russians are planning to announce mobilization. And it's already 4th of July, and what's new about this situation? Is there any updates? Because if mobilization should be, it should be today, right? Because it's like timings, according to timings, I told you, so that means that something should be like this. I must say that there is one important update about the situation. Of course, it's war, it's military conflict. We got some updates, and sometimes we got information not 100% correct. I must say that the Russians started mobilization. They started mobilization. I explain to you. What does it mean? On the 13th of June, it's like a few days ago, the Russian parliament, start negotiation and vote on a very important custom. The US sources has already called and gave this custom some title. They call it the industrial mobilization. And it is like this. So the Russians started their industrial mobilization. What does it mean, industrial mobilization? There are a few things that this custom regulates. First of all, it concerns about vacation for the people who works in an industrial zone, which supports the military operation, that people cannot go on vacation until like some certain orders. It's regulate the relations between employee and the employer. This law also regulates the work at night. So we can say that the Russians start their industrial mobilization, and one of the most important thing according to this law, that any private businessman starting as soon as this law custom will be taken, will be like voted, and I'm sure that it will be voted for this custom, any private businessmen are no longer able to refuse any government or like request or order. So for example, if you used to make some shoes for girls, for women or men, like your business was to create shoes for people, and someday the government came to your office, you have your private business, and they told you, from now on you should do the shoes for the military purposes, and you can't refuse. Furthermore, you will do these shoes by the prices and in quantities that the Russian military authorities will request. So you won't sell the shoes as you want, by the prices you want. The government will tell you the price, the government will tell you the vendors who will supply you with materials and so on, and the government will give you the number they need. And I'm not talking about the shoes, I'm talking about the bullets, I'm talking about the shells, I'm talking about the shoes, about everything that is required for the Russian army. So we can say that the Russians started their mobilization step by step. Of course, if we think that, if we supposed that the Russians are going to start mobilization like today entirely, there may be a situation when they're gonna rise like 1 million soldiers, and there would be no shoes for these 1 million soldiers, right? So before start the global mobilization with soldiers, first of course you need to prepare your industry for this. And we can say that by the end of the June, the Russians has at least prepared the custom for this, and they have already regulated the situation. So, as I understand, the Russians are preparing themselves for the winter campaign, and the winter campaign is going to be. Another important update about this special military operation. Today, we got some confirmation that the Ukrainians lost their bridgehead on this side of Seversky Donetsk River. If you remember a few videos, I told you that in a row that, and few sources confirmed this information, that Ukrainians had some bridgehead near town Khatomlia, Petrashkovskaya, Martove, in this area. But the Russians did some effective counteroffensive operation. As I understand, first the Russians tried to attack Rubezhne, Verkhney Saltov, Starый Saltov, and they wanted to encircle the Ukrainians who was on this side of the river, but they met some resistance from the Ukrainians, so they decided it will be much more cheaper to attack the Ukrainians on this bridgehead from, let's say, Bely Kolodys, and just to push them back. So they did it like this. The Ukrainians left this bridgehead. They wasn't defeated, like destroyed everything and anything. No, they understood that it's impossible to hold this area, and they crossed the river, and now there is no more Ukrainians on this side of Seversky Donetsk River, at least in this sector, in this zone, on this front line. And that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes. Military Summary channel reminds you that we condemn any kind of violence on Ukraine. Thank you for watching and bye bye.